Murder on the graveyard shift. During the graveyard shift of Sunday, September 13th, 1992, 27-year-old Susan Sue Taraskiewicz of Saugus, Massachusetts, volunteered to pick up sandwiches for her co-workers at Boston's Logan International Airport. 36 hours later, her Toyota Tercel was found outside an auto body shop at 281 Lee Burbank Highway. Sue's body, stabbed multiple times and badly beaten, was stuffed inside the trunk. There were no signs of robbery or rape. Ruling out a random assault, Sue was a trailblazer, a woman working in a man's job on the tarmac of the airport. She was the second female to be employed by Northwest Airlines, since bought out by Delta, as a ground service worker and loved what she did. She had worked her way up from cleaning jets, and after 3 years, was promoted to ramp supervisor, the first woman to hold that position. Her mother, Marlene Taraskiewicz, said, "Sometimes she'd come home and say, 'I lifted 1,000,000 bags a day and they were 200 pounds each.' She'd make a joke out of it, but she never complained about the job. She loved it." Susan was beautiful, intelligent, friendly, and had a heart of gold. At the time of her murder, a group of Northwest employees were involved in a credit card theft ring. Mrs. Taraskiewicz believes her daughter knew about the thefts, but did not say anything because she was a woman working in a traditionally male job and had filed a grievance after being passed over for a supervisor's position. Nobody was going to force her out of her job, no one, and I'm proud of her for that. For more than a year, her family, especially her mother, grieved, and Sue's room remained just as it had been when she left for work the last night of her life. Then finally, at Christmas time of 1993, Marlene entered her daughter's bedroom and was shocked by what she found. "I tried many times to go in Sue's room," Mrs. Taraskiewicz explained. "You know, you've got to do this. It's a year. You know you should. Let me get something that was special to her and we'll just put it out." And I started going into her closet, and I saw a briefcase there. Inside the briefcase was a diary where, in vivid detail, Sue Taraskiewicz described the sexual harassment she had been forced to endure on the job. There were shocking incidents she had never mentioned to her family. The journal included examples of the graffiti, insulting, demeaning, and lurid, she had found written on walls, and even in the cargo holds of jets. Marlene knew immediately the diary was important to the investigation. What I read, the filth that somebody would write about my Susan. And I thought, is this why she was murdered? And we thought, this is it. We have solved Susan's murder. On page after page, Sue described acts of hostility. In one incident, she wrote of a co-worker named Bobby who purposely dropped her radio on the floor. Sue's boyfriend, who also worked at the airport, spoke to Bobby and demanded he replace the radio. Then later that day, Sue confronted Bobby herself. During their conversation, he threatened to beat up and kill her boyfriend. Sue filed several formal complaints with both management and her union, but little was done to stop the harassment. In fact, according to Laura Brown, a reporter for the Boston Herald, it increased, often in the form of nasty graffiti. It wasn't apparently just one or two pieces of graffiti that made their way up and then were washed away. It was repeated cases of graffiti of varying kinds. In some cases, it amounted to death threats against other workers who were supporting Sue. Sue also talks in her diary about getting anonymous phone calls at all hours of the night. She recorded some of the times the phone calls happened. She also had instances where her car was vandalized. Her boyfriend's car was vandalized. Friends who were supporting her had their cars vandalized. Despite the abuse, Sue's career did not suffer, and in February 1992, she was promoted to ramp supervisor and placed in charge of the employees she had once worked with on the tarmac. Initially, she had been passed over for the promotion. A man in her union had illegally bid for the job, so Sue filed a grievance and was successful. But the victory made some of her co-workers uncomfortable, one of whom, Joseph Snow, admitted it was because Sue was female. A lot of them felt that they didn't want any females being their boss, that should be a man's job. Snow recalled, "It didn't stop her from coming to work. It didn't stop her from standing up to things that she thought was wrong." A few months after her promotion, The graffiti became more sinister. Sue once found where someone had drawn the outline of a coffin inside her locker. Investigators believe Sue's murder was connected to a federal investigation of the Northwest Airlines credit card thefts the summer prior to her death. The facts and circumstances of Susan's brutal killing, including whether it was connected to people involved in the credit card theft and sexual harassment or to other individuals, remains under active investigation by the Suffolk County District Attorney. The Massachusetts State Police and the Revere Police disclosed in a written statement. Officers investigating the murder believe there are people who have information that will allow them to arrest a person or persons who killed Susan Taraskiewicz. Anyone with information, regardless of their current situation or circumstance, is urged to contact the State Police Detective Unit for Suffolk County at 617-727-8817. In Season 2 of Law & Order, Criminal Intent, Episode 11, entitled Baggage, was inspired by the Susan Taraskiewicz case, but of course, Detectives Gorin and Eames got their man, who turned out to be an airline's baggage supervisor living the high life by selling stolen credit card numbers to the Russian mob.